What if Robert Baratheon publicly named Ned Stark Protector of the Realm? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Ned gasps and watches as his friend limps towards the Iron Throne, using a cane as if he were an old man, while one hand is clutching his side as if worried that something might fall back if he moves his arm aside. But now, the whole court has heard of his injury, but seeing it up close is something completely different, and many blanch at the sight. Even older lords and knights shudder at the sight, unused to seeing the king in such a state. It is a distressing sight, but also inspiring. In all his years he knew Robert, Ned had never seen him move with such certainty and determination since the rebellion. He is tempted to help his old friend and guide him to the throne, but he knows Robert will never accept that. Such an act would make him look weak, and even know that it is something Robert still concerns himself with. Instead, he satisfies himself with watching Cersei. Her arrogant expression crumples as she watches Robert approaching with growing concern. She does not help him, but for completely different reasons. When, at last, the king finds his seat and eases back to the throne, he takes a moment to catch his breath before overlooking the court. Finally, he clears his throat and speaks.
All right. Take it in, you fools. Yes, the king has been injured. You can gawk all you want, but hear my words. I am no fool. I know how bad my injuries are, and that is why I've gathered you all today. If they prove fatal, I'm here to ensure the realm is left in good hands.
Husband, perhaps it is best if you rest and gather your strength. Such talk can wait for a few days.
Leave off, woman. Do not insult me with your empty words. There is no strength for me to gather. Today may be my last chance to address you all, and I will not waste it. For all those who care about the king's words, then hear me. My son is but a boy, and until such that time he comes of age, I name Ned Stark as protector of the realm. He shall bring order to the realm and serve as Joffrey's guardian, and I expect all of you to swear your allegiance to him.
Cersei, for her part, looks livid. Her face reddens in anger, but she sees no chance to oppose Ned publicly, not without risking everything. She instead swallows her anger and clenches her fist as lords arrive one by one to bend the knee. They do this and declare their loyalty to Ned and King Robert. Ned has one of his men keep a list of lords who have sworn allegiance. The king watches them under a steely gaze. Some of that old fire in him has come back despite, or perhaps because, of his injuries. Now he watches as they line up one by one to swear their oaths. His posture remains firm, and his eyes are fixed on them until the last one finishes uttering his oath. Only then does the king allow himself to relax and be led away. With that, the court is adjourned, and the nobles go home, all wondering what will happen next. By the next morning, the king is dead, having succumbed to his injuries. The first to hear about it is Ned, but the rest of the small council is not far behind. Renly soon approaches him to discuss the matter.
Lord Hand, surely now is the time to strike. The entire realm knows about your appointment as protector of the realm. You must enforce it before someone snatches it from under you. The Queen will not take this lying down. I'm sure her spies are reporting this as we speak, and she is already looking for ways to deal with you.
And what is it you suggest I do?
Separate them. Gather your supporters and show your strength. Keep them detained if possible.
You are talking about a child, my lord.
I am talking about the future of the realm. You see how much of a wild child Joffrey is with his mother's influence. Robert said your job is to steer the realm into stability, and that will never exist so long as Cersei has her claws around Joffrey.
Ned sighs and rubs his temples. All of this politicking was something he could never care for. It was something he had long wished to leave behind him, and though he admired Robert for his final act of leadership, a part of him was upset at being left to handle the mess. Unfortunately, Renly is correct, but not in the way he realizes. Stannis is the true king, and if he is to claim his crown, they must have the Red Keep secure, especially with the Lannisters. Taking a deep breath, Ned agrees. He gathers his household guard, Renly and his men, Sir Balon Swan, the Redwyne twins, and Jon Royce, and they make their way to the throne room, accompanied by their sworn swords. A group of Goldcloaks follow, their loyalty secure with a hefty bonus provided by Littlefinger. Cersei and Joffrey are waiting for them with their guards and the White Cloaks.
Your Grace, Queen Mother, you have heard the pronouncements along with many here. We ask that you do not make this difficult. My orders are clear. Step aside and allow me to govern.
And once you place yourself on that throne, what guarantees do we have that you will leave it?
A Stark breaking his oath. That is your worry? You must fear the very shadows around you then. Ned Stark has the right. He is the Lord Protector, and the king is not of age yet. He is welcome to stay and watch the proceedings. But you must leave.
Watch your tone, Lord Renly. I am not some servant that you can order about on a whim.
No. You are just the Queen Mother without any official position in this small council.
Besides Cersei, her guards reach for their swords, and Ned's men do the same. The knights on either side shoot warning glances, but then one of the Kingsguard steps forward. Barristan the Bold walks into the middle of the room and removes his helmet, glancing at his brothers.
We were sworn to obey the words of the king. He proclaimed Lord Eddard Protector of the Realm, and we swore to uphold it. Set your swords aside before you do something you regret.
His sworn brothers look at one another, holding their swords, but then they release them and step back. With the loss of the Kingsguard, the Lannister men look far less certain about their odds as Ned steps forward. Joffrey growls and shakes his head.
What are you doing? Fools, I know you deceived my father. You all swore to protect your king.
There is no danger here, Your Grace. Only men doing their duty.
Sir Mandon takes Cersei by the hand and leads her away, while Joffrey is left to watch, sulking quietly as the others begin to rule. The first thing they do is send messages out to Stannis, urging him to return to King's Landing with all haste, assuring him that they have the Red Keep under control. Ned still fully intends to hand the throne over to Stannis, and when he drafts this letter, adds a section where he explains that he knows about Joffrey's true parentage. But as the raven flies, neither one of them can rest easy. They know that this is just the beginning, and there is still much to do. The next thing they do is begin removing people in court who they do not believe can be trusted. Both Renly and Ned have a list of individuals they do not trust. Among them are Varys and Pycelle, who are both removed, although Littlefinger is allowed to remain in his position. As the court is cleared up, they still must address the dragon in the room, Tywin Lannister. Although they have secured the capital, he continues to rampage across the Riverlands, raiding it in retaliation for Catelyn's kidnapping of Tyrion. While keeping Joffrey on the throne is enough to prevent Tywin from storming King's Landing, they do not have the forces to challenge the Old Lion. So instead, Ned dispatches the other members of the court to their home regions with orders to gather their swords and spears for potential campaigning against the Lannisters. Men like Jon Royce and Loras Tyrell are all too willing to test their steel against Lord Tywin, but that will take time. In the meantime, they send letters to him, ordering Tywin to return to the capital to explain his actions and face judgment. Tywin writes back, saying he is willing to come to terms with them, but requires assurances of his safety and that he will not be executed. That is something neither one of the lords is prepared to offer him, so the war continues. But they have little time to dwell on that, as just a few days later, Stannis' fleet arrives from Dragonstone. The ruler of the Narrow Sea arrives with a small host, large enough to hold the city, but not enough to meet the Westermen in the field. They waste no time in gathering their forces and meet in the small council chambers.
So, you know why I fled to Dragonstone, Lord Stark? That boy is a monster.
I know Joffrey's a little shit, brother, but surely you're exaggerating a bit.
You haven't told him.
Lord Renly, there is more to this succession crisis than you think. Joffrey and Tommen, and Myrcella, for that matter, aren't Baratheons. They are children of Cersei and Jaime Lannister. It is why Lord Stannis chose to remain on Dragonstone, and why Jon Arryn died. Hang on. How do you know that the Lannisters killed Jon Arryn? It is something Song and the Vale suspect. The two of them were launching an investigation regarding Joffrey's paternity. They had spent weeks visiting Robert's bastards, studying genealogies. All point to one thing. There has never been a blonde Baratheon. When I confronted Cersei, she all but confirmed it. Joffrey is not the true heir.
Which means our course of action is clear. We must get rid of Joffrey and his family immediately.
Wait just a moment. You cannot possibly believe that removing Joffrey now is a good idea. Lord Stark, Robert had just named you Protector of the Realm. You are the King's Regent until he comes of age. If you remove him, it will vindicate the Lannisters' claim that you wish to stage a coup.
They do not even have a claim to the throne, so it is hardly a coup.
It doesn't matter if they do. The rest of the realm believes so. You think showing a few historical documents will change anything? No. They will just see it as a grasping uncle trying to take control of a throne that doesn't belong to him. So what do you suggest we do, Lord Renly?
Surely you cannot believe that letting Joffrey rule is a good idea.
Of course not. I've met the boy. But this situation requires a delicate hand. Fortunately for us, we have time on our side. With my dear brother's final declaration, we have the right. We can bide our time and strengthen our position. 5 years is a long time to win allies over and convince people of these rumors. Though Joffrey will sit on the Iron Throne, everyone knows that we are ruling in effect. So as long as we do it well, we might be able to convince people to make it permanent.
This seems like the type of scheme that Littlefinger cooks up, brother. It is beneath you.
Still, I cannot deny the logic here. Lord Stennis, you understand we are not in a position to claim the Iron Throne even if we wished. Tywin has over 30,000 swords, and right now we barely have a tenth of that number. Unfortunately, biding our time might be the best course of action.
Very well. But I assume you have an idea in mind.
As a matter of fact, I do.
Their priority is to pacify Lord Tywin, and Renly has just the idea. He sends out ravens to Tywin, saying that they cannot accept this proposal, but instead offers something he has been craving for years: his son. Renly offers to return Sir Jaime and remove him from the Kingsguard, allowing him to serve as Tywin's heir. They cite the incident of him attacking Ned Stark as justification for this. Although it will be considered a disgrace, it is one Tywin is willing to stomach. Aside from that, Cersei and Joffrey must remain in the capital as hostages, but they will allow Tywin to send a representative to ensure his interests are met there. In exchange, he must immediately withdraw from the Riverlands, cease all hostilities, and acknowledge Ned Stark as protector of the realm. These are steep terms, but the chance to at least have his heir in Castle Rock and to keep Joffrey on the throne is a fair trade, so Tywin agrees, especially once he gets word that some Vale and Reach houses are mobilizing in the name of the king. Rather than risk a war on all sides, Tywin agrees and marches his soldiers home. Soon enough, Jaime is informed of the news, and while he is livid, there is little he can do. Both his father and Ned Stark have decided, and it is easy enough to convince Sir Barristan and Joffrey. Both still know him as the Kingslayer and allow the dismissal. But as Jaime rides off to Castle Rock, Sir Kevan makes his way to the capital to serve as Tywin's representative. Renly agrees to name him a member of the small council, listing him as the new Master of Whispers. With that, Tywin's rebellion comes to a swift end and allows the crown to begin focusing on strengthening its position. The first thing that they do is name Jaime's replacement, Sir Courtnay Penrose. But with him also comes Sir Edric Storm, who is tasked with squiring him. As one of the few bastards whom Robert had recognized, and from a prominent family, there is no way for the Lannisters to simply reject him. And as he serves, some begin to notice how different Edric looks. Though he is about the same age as Joffrey, Edric is strapping and dark-haired compared to Joffrey's graceful and lithe appearance. But their next step is much more difficult, at least for Ned. He makes the public announcement that he is ending the betrothal of Sansa and Joffrey. He explains that as protector of the realm, he cannot be seen putting the needs of his house above those of the crown, and understands that positioning his daughter to be queen might be seen as grasping for power, similar to what Otto Hightower did during the Dance of Dragons. Most of the court is happy to accept this, even praising Ned for his integrity. But one of those who does not is Sansa herself. The oldest Stark girl is heartbroken at having her marriage agreement cancelled, and though Ned assures her that he will find a new match, she does not accept this.
I don't want a new match. I want Joffrey. He is my prince. Even his father agreed.
Child, it is not as simple as in the fairy tales. I am the Lord Protector. My role is to raise Joffrey to be a good king. That means doing what is best for him. I cannot be seen trying to forward my interests while I do that.
How do you know that I'm not what's best for him? Other girls might just use him for his crown.
What do you think that girl's father will say about me? There will be time to discuss this in the future. Don't forget, you were just a child yourself. Things will change.
No, I don't want them to change. I hate you.
Sansa, that is enough. This is the good of the Seven Kingdoms we are talking about. We just barely survived a war in the Riverlands. Your mother's people were butchered by Joffrey's family. His own uncle attacked me in the streets, and you wish for me to talk of marriage agreements with them. This matter is closed.
Although it might pacify things within the Stark camp, Renly and Stannis both begin making moves to press their claim. While Edric Storm's presence raises questions, the two of them must continue to challenge his legitimacy. The two of them go about this in different ways, with Stannis wishing to make public proclamations that denounce Joffrey as a child born of incest and urge the other houses to rise up against him. He is further egged on by Melisandre, who has searched in the flames and is convinced of Joffrey's illegitimacy. But Renly points out that most of their people do not follow the Lord of Light and are less willing to take these claims seriously. Simply attacking Joffrey's legitimacy isn't enough. They must begin by offering things that will entice people into believing them. To Stannis, this sounds like bribery, but Renly reminds him that it is merely politics. He begins meeting with allies, specifically those in the Reach and Stormlands, reminding them that though Joffrey might be king, he is still the power behind the throne as Master of the Law. Stannis, being the Master of Ships, and Ned, the Hand, gives their faction tremendous power to challenge Lannister rule. Because of that, he promises favors and gives gifts to those who support him. This is enough for Mace to halt offering a marriage alliance to Joffrey. He also sends letters to Dorne, assuring them that they do not like the Lannisters any more than he does, but these go unanswered. Meanwhile, Stannis reaches out to the Vale Lords instead, finding houses of honor like Jon Royce and Lady Waynwood to discuss these matters. He begins to reveal his investigation to them, informing them that Joffrey is not the legitimate son of Robert, and this was the secret that led the Lannisters to murder Jon Arryn. He says he does not plan on letting them inherit the Iron Throne, and asks for their support when the time comes. When Joffrey is allowed to sit on the throne, the tribe barely have to do things to convince people of Joffrey's instability. They simply let him speak, and eventually he says something foolish or mad. Unlike Renly or Kevan, he lacks the grace of court, unable to honey words or inspire loyalty. Though Ned tries to guide him, the teachings of his mother have already influenced his way of thinking too much. However, Kevan is not blind to these efforts, and knows that the Baratheons are planning something. Though Cersei never confesses to the incest, Kevan's spies report all these rumors to him. When Tywin asks Jaime about it, the former King's Guard all but confirms it, placing them in a difficult position. They realize that making Jaime leave at such a time might also seem like a cover-up, something Renly was hoping for. Now it leaves them with their own chance of success in defeating their enemies. Tywin puts Kevan up to the task, as he knows that hidden ears can carry knives as well as anyone. Just as the spies gather intelligence for the crown, he also keeps one ear on the whispers of the small council and their plans. Soon enough, he intercepts a letter bearing the name of Lord Smallwood, confirming his fears that they are gathering allies and informing them of the incest. The youngest Lannister brother acts and begins taking action against them. He dares not risk open conflict, but strikes with hidden knives. One lord falls from his walls one night and is found in the moat. A tax collector for the Starks disappears on the road, beset by bandits supposedly, and several knights bearing messages for Stannis disappear. The small council pretends not to notice the patterns, knowing that confronting them will risk war, all except for Littlefinger, who lounges on his seat and discreetly feeds information to both sides. He lets Stannis and Renly know about some attacks, while telling Kevan of moves Ned Stark is making. Each time they see him, he smiles as if nothing is happening, and continues to go about his normal duty with enough talent that no one dares touch him. But one day, he decides to go beyond old Kevan and instead pay a visit to Cersei Lannister, who makes her way into the Gilded Cage. But from there, she continues to retain some influence. He reminds her that they must strike at the weakest link in their camp, not the iron-willed Stannis or honorable Ned Stark, but his daughter, Sansa, who never truly forgives her father for breaking off their marriage pact. That night, she sends for Sansa. The Stark girl hesitates when the maid delivers the message. She has not spoken to the queen since her betrothal was annulled, but curiosity and the ache of betrayal drive her feet. Inside the queen's solar, the firelight flickers off marble and wine-red silk. Cersei stands by the window, her silhouette framed against the moonlight. She doesn't turn when Sansa enters.
I heard you'll be leaving soon. Home at last. It is quite different from King's Landing, I must imagine.
She had heard this from Kevan as Ned grows increasingly worried about the chaos in the court and decides to send his daughters home.
Yes, Your Grace.
It must feel like exile. My courtiers say you truly thrived here. You will be missed sorely, especially by Joffrey.
The king spoke of me?
No. He is a proud boy, but I am his mother, and I know these things. He longs to see this marriage agreement, though, just as I am sure you are.
Sansa flinches, but says nothing.
I know what it is to be powerless, to watch men decide your life like you're a pawn on their board. But that does not have to be your future.
She walks slowly towards Sansa. brushing a loose strand of auburn hair behind the girl's ear. The gesture is almost maternal. Almost.
He listens to you, Sansa. He always has. If you stay loyal, if you speak out for him, perhaps the court will remember what it means to have a queen of grace beside a boy king.
Sansa's lips part, but she doesn't speak. Her hands tremble.
Say it in the Godswood before you go. Speak for him just once, publicly. If you do, you will restore your betrothal. You'll be a queen, as you were always meant to be.
Sansa's eyes shine, not with hope, but with confusion. Her father's voice echoes in her mind. Duty, honor, the realm. But so too does her heart, aching for the dream.
I'll think about it.
A day later, the Godswood is quiet. Dew glistening on ancient roots, his courtiers gather beneath the hearth tree. Though its red leaves whisper with the breeze, all eyes are on one figure standing beneath it, Sansa Stark. King Joffrey had called this meeting to say goodbye and provide the young lady with gifts for her journey home. She wears her finest cloak of pale gray and blue, embroidered with silver wolves. Behind her, Septa Mordanes stands nervously. To her side, Sir Balon Swan watches the gathered nobility with cautious interest, but is also there to show support for his liege lord. And in the crowd, Renly, Ned, Stannis, and a handful of Tyrell and Lannister loyalists, all gathered for what should have been a simple farewell. But then, Sansa speaks.
Before I leave for Winterfell, I ask your Grace's permission to say something. Not as a lady of the North, but as a girl who once dreamed of being queen. I still believe in King Joffrey. I know there is hatred between our families, but he is my betrothed. Was my betrothed. And he showed me kindness when I was a stranger in his city. He treated me well, even when he was a guest under our roof. Whatever lies people tell about him, I know his heart, and I still love him.
A gasp ripples through the crowd. Kevin Lannister's mouth forms into a smirk. Cersei watches with gleaming, satisfied eyes. Renly shifts uncomfortably, while Stannis grimaces. Ned doesn't speak. He simply lowers his head. They all know what has happened here. A plot by the Lannisters to win the support of the court. A good story. A story of star-crossed lovers torn apart by their conflict. When Sansa finishes, she doesn't wait for a reply. She simply curtsies, turns, and walks down the stone steps. The guard moves to escort her, accompanied by Littlefinger, who assures them of Sansa's safety. The litter heading north clatters along the docks, moving slowly, flanked by a small retinue. Inside, Sansa stares blankly out the window, while Peter Baelish sits opposite her, sipping wine.
That was quite the performance, my lady. You made the realm weep, half in admiration, half in disbelief. And now they whisper about the wolf girl who still loves her lion. Some say it was noble, others less so.
Why are you escorting me?
Because I care for you. And because, frankly, no one else understands the game we're all playing. They think players are split along house lines. Starks, Baratheons, Lannisters, and Tyrells. But I do not think so. I think they should be split among pieces and players.
And what does that have to do with me?
Because I want to advise you. Right now, you are a piece, my dear. One to be moved on your whims. Hence you are being sent home. Your father is a player. A middling one, but a player nonetheless. And like all players, he had to make some difficult decisions. There are whispers in court. Rumors that your father bribed General Slint for support when Robert named him protector. That the gold came directly from the treasury.
That's not true.
Doesn't matter. It's been said, and in King's Landing, words are weapons sharper than steel. The question is, what do you intend to do with it? Confirm or deny?
You would ask me to betray my father?
I ask if you are prepared to fight for your prince. Your father is a strong enough position that they cannot simply kill him. But should this scandal get out, it might make others reconsider his position as protector of the realm.
And with that, there will be nothing stopping her from marrying Joffrey. By the time they reach the ships, Sansa crafts a letter, personally, and hands it to Littlefinger, claiming that she had seen her father handing out these bribes. The next morning, Kevin Lannister stands before the small council, slamming a report on the table.
Care to explain the Gold Cloaks receiving a bonus the day Ned Stark seized the throne room? Paid off with the royal gold? That was not a regency. It was a coup.
The man was dismissed for corruption.
Convenient. Tell me, Lord Renly, were you the one who selected his replacement? Replace one sword with another?
Enough, Sir Kevin. Need I remind you that Lord Stark was already appointed Protector of the Realm? As far as I'm concerned, the only mistake he made was paying that toad when he should have demanded his services.
Then let us be grateful you are not the one commanding the realm, Lord Stannis. I, Ned Stark, was the Protector. But why is it that my niece was detained and her household dismissed?
He storms out, but the damage is done. Within hours, ravens are dispatched to every major house, claiming the Starks bought loyalty to seize power. A new war of letters begins. Although they are quick to remind everyone of Robert's declaration, many are still curious what was the purpose of this bonus. To secure their loyalty to perform another service? That night, Stannis stands beside the Red Woman, at Dragonstone's window, watching the stars. The sea winds howl outside.
He's undermining everything, acting on Lord Tywin's orders.
Then let the Lord of Light end this game.
Stannis hesitates, then nods. Later, Kevin Lannister retires to his chambers late, reading a Raven scroll by candlelight. Suddenly, the candle flickers. The air shifts. A shadow moves along the wall, a shape like a man, but thinner, darker. Wrong. He doesn't even have time to scream. By morning, Kevin is dead, his throat slit without any sign of a struggle, his guard swearing no one entered or left his quarters. Panic seizes the Red Keep. Renly claims it was Lannister infighting. Stannis denies involvement. Ned orders a full investigation, but no proof is found. All the Gold Cloaks are announced for, and all the courtiers and their sworn swords have alibis. It was as if the creature emerged from nowhere and disappeared into the night. The only one who seems unshaken is Melisandre. In Castle Rock, Tywin Lannister reads the news. His son, Jaime, is released in disgrace. The throne is a hostage to the Northerners and Baratheons, and now they take his brother from him. Tywin never intended to abide by this truce forever. He was simply biding his time, regaining strength and preparing to march out once again. He has secured the Westerlands, and his armies have been rearmed and reorganized. The only problem is that he is isolated diplomatically. The Stormlands and North remain united, and the Tyrells and Riverlands are friendly with the Baratheons. The Vale and Dorne are also unlikely to come to their aid. This leaves him with a few prospects for alliances and fewer chances to gain allied armies. This leaves only one way to raise new soldiers, gathering sellswords from the east. With his wealth, Tywin has enough money to hire an army of sellswords and begins recruiting them, using Littlefinger to go on ahead to recruit his new army. The Great Hall is darker than usual. Shadows creep across the marble table as Stannis Baratheon stands at its head, fists clenched, jaw like stone. Renly lounges to the side, half listening, half scheming. Melisandre soon gets word of this and begins to give reports to Stannis, warning him that Tywin Lannister is plotting something.
Enough waiting. War is upon us. Tywin raises sellswords. Jaime Lannister is no longer bound by the Kingsguard. They are preparing to strike. We must do the same.
Strike whom? A boy? An anointed king? I will not be remembered as the man who disposed his nephew while he slept in a gilded cage.
He is no nephew of yours, nor mine. He is a bastard born of incest and treason. And what of Tywin Lannister? Should we remind him that we have his grandson hostage? If we delay, the city falls into their hands.
And yet, removing him now will make us the villains. The realm remembers Mad King Aerys, and they'll see another coup, not justice.
Fire consumes all in the end. Delay only ensures a slower burn.
An uneasy silence follows, and yet, as they debate this, sails fill the harbor of Duskendale. A ragged fleet of Free City ships glides. Docked under the cover of night, thousands disembark. A colorful tide of hardened killers, mercenaries from Lys, Myr, and Volantis. At the docks, Peter Baelish watches with a smirk. Behind him, Sir Jaime Lannister rides up, newly returned from Castle Rock, armored and freshly polished.
The East sells its swords to those who pay, and your father pays very well.
Let's give the realm something to remember us by.
Soon enough, they begin their attack across the Crownlands, striking at Duskendale, Stokeworth, and other nearby castles, sending King's Landing into a panic as they try to gather their forces and prepare for a siege. Meanwhile, Lannister banners move east, swift and brutal. Tywin's forces sweep through the Riverlands, burning fields, taking minor castles, and threatening Riverrun itself. At Harrenhal, Tywin establishes a temporary seat, using the castle's black ruin as a forward base. The Riverlords each focus on defending their land, but none of them dare challenge the Lannisters directly. Back at King's Landing, the pressure builds. Renly departs south with House Tyrell to secure reinforcements. He leaves behind a note for Ned. "If we do not stand with strength now, we stand alone later. I go to summon the storm." Ned Stark also suspects that war is coming and sails north to gather reinforcements. This leaves Stannis alone to hold King's Landing. As he strengthens the city's defenses, he sends letters out to his allies across the Seven Kingdoms. Northern forces swell with Riverlords, Roycemen, and even contingents from the Reach emboldened by Lannister raids. And soon enough, they ride out to meet them. Ned intercepts Tywin's advance near the Trident, catching his bannermen off guard. A brutal battle follows. Though not a decisive victory, Ned's forces halt the Lannister push into Riverrun, but Tywin retreats in good order. Tywin retreats beyond the Red Fork, and both sides dig, and a war of attrition begins. Meanwhile, with the bulk of the forces occupied dealing with Tywin's army in the Riverlands, this leaves few reinforcements able to ride east to King's Landing. With his army unchallenged, Jaime soon begins to march towards the capital with sellswords. He tries to take it by storm, but Stannis gathers his levies from the Narrow Sea and Crownlands and hunkers down in the city. Though many of the Crownlanders are afraid of joining the war, he still raises 7,000 men to hold the city. The first battles are hard fought as Jaime tries to break through, but Stannis does not break so easily. His defenses beat back the attacker, dropping wildfire, which has been strengthened by Melisandre's magic. The attacks let fire across the foliage and siege weapons, creating a second wall of fire that the Lannisters dared not march against. Davos ensures the city is well supplied, taking ships and shipping goods through enemy lines while Sir Godry and Richard Horp lead sorties, preventing Jaime from resting easy. Days soon drag into weeks, and Jaime makes slow but steady progress. Then, Renly returns. With him comes House Tarly, the Redwind fleet, and thousands of Stormlanders and Reach soldiers. They fall on Jaime's rear lines and break the siege in a thunderous counterattack. The sellswords splinter, many surrendering or fleeing. Jaime is forced to retreat north to Cracklet Point, cursing Littlefinger's quality army. And as the south empties itself of soldiers to deal with Jaime's army, another fleet arrives from the south. In the shadowed solar of Prince Doran Martell, Daenerys Targaryen sits across from the aging ruler. At her side stands Grey Worm and Ser Jorah, with 3 dragons circling above Dorne like omens of doom. She comes offering peace, vengeance, and fire, to kill the Lannisters who murdered his kin, and to hold those Baratheons who never brought them justice responsible.
Then let Dorne burn with you. We remember Elia.
At daybreak, House Martell declares for Daenerys. Thousands of Dornish spears march out under the Targaryen banner. They stiffen the Unsullied and freedmen, and in the skies, the roar of dragons echo across the Boneway. Back in King's Landing, a raven arrives at the Red Keep. Stannis reads it in silence. Then he looks to the Marcher Lords and says only one thing.
Another war front, and this one breathes fire.
The winds over Blackwater Bay are sharp, and they have a scent of steel and ash. Stannis Baratheon stands atop the ramparts of King's Landing, his jaw clenched as he studies the fleet being loaded with men, horses, and siege equipment. He has no patience left for delay.
The dragons have landed in Dawn. If we do not strike Tywin now, we may never get the chance.
Beside him, Davos remains silent, knowing better than to argue. The Stormlords await Stannis' command, but the plan is already in motion. Before joining Ned in the Riverlands, Stannis sends his Marcher Lords south with one instruction: delay Daenerys Targaryen. Hold the Boneway, hold the passes, hold the fire until they can defeat Tywin. Lord Rowan and Estermont are tasked with keeping the Lannister army at bay in Crackclaw Point, while the rest of the army marches to the Riverlands. The Marchers fail. Stannis rides hard towards Lord Harroway's town, while Ned marches near Fairmarket. Together, the Lannisters are forced to hold Harrenhal, and they hold off for many days as a brutal siege commences. Siege engines roll forward, depositing Riverrun and Stormlands on the wall. They clash with the forces on the wall. The fight soon leaves the stone slick with blood as both sides batter themselves on the walls, leaving thousands dead, while the ruins become killing fields all around them, raining arrows, rocks, and fire on the ground. For days, both sides push, but neither one can gain the upper hand. That is until remnants of Lady Wen's garrison open a gate for Sir Clayton Scuggs to sneak inside and slaughters the men. As the royalist host streams inside, Tywin's horde is scattered. Their victory is swift and decisive. Two flanks crash like icebound jaws, and the sellswords break. Tywin's host fractures, fleeing back west, bloodied and dishonored. Tywin is not among them, and Sir Clayton catches him and decapitates the Lord of Castle Rock. The realm breathes again, and the sky darkens. They hear the roar before they see it, a terrible ancient cry like the shattering of mountains. Daenerys has arrived, not with soldiers, but with fire. Her dragons descend on the gathered army like comets of flame. The sky glows orange, and the field becomes a pyre. Shields melt, banners burn, and from the ground, unsullied and freedmen rush forward, eagerly picking off the survivors as Dornish hunting parties move through the wilderness, picking off stragglers. Men scream and flee in all directions. Renly flees south, wounded and furious. He vanishes into the forests of the Reach, gathering the remnants of his Tyrell allies, waging a guerrilla war alongside the Blackfire. The Martyr Lords had failed to hold Daenerys and burned through the Reach, forcing them to retake it castle by castle, village by village. Stannis retreats east, seething but alive. He turns his ships toward Dorne, launching raid after raid on their exposed coastline. Salt clings to his soldiers' cloaks as they burn watchtowers, take minor keeps, and seize the port at Starfall. The Dornish are forced to recall thousands of troops to defend their homes, slowing Daenerys' northern advance. In King's Landing, Ned Stark marches the remaining loyal troops back into the capital. He knows the city cannot survive a second siege, not with dragons in the wind. He begins organizing defenses, but before he can take command of the city guard, the blow falls. It happens while inspecting work to strengthen the walls. Ned is about to finish his rounds and return to the Red Keep to meet with Stannis, when a white shadow passes over him. He barely has time to react when he is shot off the edge of the wall and disappears into the ground below. Sir Mandon Moore watches him fall until he hears the thud before marching off. Once Littlefinger receives word of this, he smiles and takes a sip of his wine. This was one more problem out of the way. He sends word out to Daenerys, offering to meet with her in the ruins of Summerhall. Days later, he arrives there with a small escort of sellswords. He sits under a ruined wall, humming to himself, until the peace is silenced by the sound of wings flapping overhead. Littlefinger watches as the dragon circles the ruined palace and sets itself down in front of him. Daenerys slides down the dragon's back and approaches him. She has no escort, but it is Lord Baelish who is armed in this situation.
Your Grace, I thank you for meeting me. I apologize for choosing such a location, but I thought that secrecy was paramount.
Yes, to my understanding, that is typically important when it comes to plotting. Tell me, Lord Baelish, you served in the Usurper's Council for many years. Ser Jorah has told me that plots come to you as easy as breathing. So tell me, why should I trust you?
Ser Jorah flatters me with that description, but you must understand the type of men I serve under. Strong King Robert, who hardly cared about governance. Young Joffrey, who was worse. And now the Council of the Stag and Wolf. Ned Stark, Renly, and Stannis Baratheon. All good men with illustrious names. But so often those names matter most. It is the way of this realm, where names and lineages are the first thing people care about. Unfortunately, I cannot boast such a lineage. I am a small man who rose to prominence because of my friendship with larger men. But even I know my prospects for rising will be limited under this current regime.
Is that why you are approaching me? For advancement?
Your Grace, you should be flattered that talented men wish to flock to your banner. I have heard stories of your exploits in Slaver's Bay, and how you had built a kingdom that does not care about one's background, but their ability. So, yes, I do believe my chances of rising high are better with you.
And how exactly do you plan on rising high? What do you have to offer me?
The Vale of Arryn, Your Grace. Though the likes of Jon Royce have pledged their forces to the Usurper, most of the Vale's strength remains behind their mountain stronghold. But I can convince them to join you. doubling the strength of your army.
The Vale. Such men are famed for their knights. Very well. If you convince them to offer me their swords, I will see what positions are available for you.
Soon enough, as the Targaryen army marches through the Riverlands, they continue to encounter resistance. Renegade lords, masterless knights, and scattered remains of the Stormlanders and Reachmen stretch her supply lines from Dorne. Slowly, they begin to counterattack and drive her army back, holding the lines as the Northmen gather their strength in Riverrun. Soon, they launch a counterattack commanded by Greatjon Umber. He crosses the Tumbleton and drives the advanced guard back, but just as he is about to pursue, horns blow from the east, and a force of Valemen comes advancing through the hills. At first, the Northmen cheer and think they are reinforcements, but then the army strikes them from the flanks, and they are thrown into disarray. The first row collapses before they even realize what's happening. Though Greatjon tries to rally the men and order the lines to reform, it is no use. He must call a retreat, limping back to where he came from. The Valemen throw the war into chaos. Although many wished to fight alongside Ned, Lady Lysa insisted she would never fight to put a lion on the throne and instead declared for Daenerys. But the Northmen are grappling with their own turmoil, as the loss of Ned is a devastating blow. Melisandre is placed in charge of escorting Ned Stark's body north, where it passes line after line of grieving Northmen. Chief among them is Sansa, who sobs uncontrollably. This wasn't supposed to happen. Littlefinger promised that her father wouldn't get hurt. At Winterfell, snow falls in a silent curtain as she presents Ned's body to Sansa.
It was no accident how he died. During the time of the accident, one of the Kingsguard was not in the Red Keep. Somandin Moore, a Valeman.
You think that they did this?
Not they. A specific one. Someone who had something to gain from it. Someone you might know.
The girl backs away, shaking her head in terror as she realizes what Melisandre is implying, and shakes her head.
No, he wouldn't dare. Not my father.
You lack imagination of what cruelties men are capable of. That is your mistake.
He made me write them. All those letters. He said it was to save our family. It's my fault.
Hush, girl. You might have notched the arrow, but it was this man who fired it. You must tell the realm. You must name the traitor. My suspicions will not be believed, but your word holds sway.
I will.
The next morning, word spreads like wildfire. Sansa appears before some of the grieving lords, loudly blaming herself for her father's death, not because she ordered the assassination, but because she had believed someone she shouldn't, Littlefinger. Lords all gasp in surprise, and Sansa presents her story. She says that she was coerced by the Master of Coin, claiming that he used her love of Joffrey to spin these tales and confirm what he claimed. All of this was done to aid the Lannisters and get Ned to be exiled back north. Word spreads to King's Landing, and soon Lord Baelish is declared a traitor of the crown. Though he is now safely in the Vale, which is declared for Daenerys, it at least gives Stannis more legitimacy. It also emboldens Lord Royce, as he knows the truth. While Renly rallies his forces in the Reach and continues his raids, Stannis moves to secure the capital and decides to do away with pretenses of ruling through Joffrey. Without Tywin or Kevin, and with Jaime on the run, there is no more need to appease the Lannisters. So instead, Stannis does away with the Boy King. In the dead of night, Sir Godfrey leads a squad of knights and breaks into the royal chambers. The King's Guard guarding him are swiftly subdued, while Sir Barristan remains in the front, leaving Joffrey for the taking. He screams and sobs, demands that someone help him, his mother, his guards, the gods. No one comes. Stannis watches coldly as Melisandre approaches him.
You have the lion cub. Now it is time to deal with him.
We can have him beheaded tomorrow.
No. Why waste good king's blood when it can be used to turn the tide of this war? Perhaps the only service he will ever provide for the realm.
And what service is that, Red Woman?
Waking the dragon.
The moon hangs low over the black cells as the Red Keep sleeps, unaware of the ritual brewing deep in its belly. The guards take Joffrey in the middle of the night and smuggle him out of the city towards Dragonstone, where magic is stronger. In the courtyard, the floor is chalked with runes written in blood and ash. Melisandre stands at the center, robes fluttering, face raised towards the stars. They bring him in chains, thrashing, Joffrey Baratheon, the lion cub of the false line, is dragged out to the pyre by silent gods. His voice is hoarse from screaming, his golden hair soaked in sweat and spit. Around him, Queensmen chant and sing the praises of Rolar.
You can't do this. I am the king. You'll all burn for this. You'll all...
He sees Stannis standing just beyond the flames. The older man's eyes are dark, unreadable.
You were never king. You were a weapon of lies. Let your death serve the truth.
Melisandre raises her hands.
Lord of Light, take this offering of royal blood. From the kings of the rock brought low by fire. Let your breath, let your fire breathe life into stone. Let your wrath awaken the dragon beneath.
The fire is lit. Joffrey's screams rise like a choir of damned souls. He is consumed by it, his crown melting, skin curling, until nothing remains but silence and smoke. The flames pulse unnaturally, once, twice, and then a tremor runs through the castle. Beneath the courtyard, a rumble echoes like a heartbeat, a roar, deep, ancient, not dragon, not regal, something new. But just as they are woken through blood and fire, so is this. Smoke rises from the Reach. The field that once fed Westeros now burns beneath the wings of dragons. Drogon leads the charge, Daenerys mounted atop him like a goddess of war. They scatter the few resistance that dare challenge her, but they still do. Not as an army, but as bands of marauders. All across her domain she feels them striking like an army of fleas biting at her back, and when her forces move to root them out, they disappear into the forests and hills. And now one such band of the Stormlands makes their escape after a raid in the Reach. They had ambushed several Dornish supply convoys and made their escape back across the marches to the Stormlands. Daenerys knows that several Stormlords still oppose her, and now she sees it as her chance to bring them low and end the rebellion in her rear. She rides after them on Drogon and chases the raiders down, whittling their numbers, but she rides into a trap. Stannis has drawn her out, feigning retreat towards the Kingswood. He first had Melisandre assassinate Jaime and order his remaining sellswords to cross their banners to his side. Now they lie in wait, hidden in the trees along with the Marcher Lords, archers of Storm's End and Blackhaven. As the last of the Stormlanders make their escape into the trees, Daenerys doesn't let them flee, and as Drogon unleashes fire upon the trees, burning the forest down to smoke them out. But the forest responds with a storm of arrows. The first volley hits its wings, one arrow, then a dozen. The dragon roars, most of these only causing minor injuries, but enough to keep his attention as something in the forest shifts. Fire explodes across his flank, and Stannis appears, mounted atop a dragon almost as large. Her eyes widen at the sight. The beast looks to be made of stone, but its eyes glow brightly as if it's alive, and its wings flap defiantly. It lets out a roar and approaches the pair. Drogon responds with a burst of fire, but through the smoke, Proudwing flies, opening its jaws and letting out a jet of flame. Daenerys swoops low under the attack and then circles down before flying up. As it knows Proudwing's aside, the creature spins out of control and tries to regain momentum. Stannis grips the saddle and wrestles control back, but Drogon is moving again. He strikes Proudwing again and again, battering the stone dragon before reaching out and biting at Proudwing's neck. Though he strikes, the dragon does not falter, even as his neck cracks. But Proudwing shakes himself free and rakes his claw across Drogon's chest, leaving the beast howling out in pain. Drogon stumbles, blood pouring from the wound. Daenerys blinks and grips her reins tightly, trying to maintain her grip on the dragon. Yet as she steadies Drogon, Proudwing's jaw clamps down on the black dragon's neck, leaving him shaking in pain before dropping to the ground. Daenerys screams as she feels the world spinning, and she disappears into the forest. Spearmen surround the wreckage, cutting down unsullied guards as they rush to protect her. The fighting rages around them, but the sellswords who Stannis recruited come rushing out, far outnumbering the unsullied and cutting them down. Daenerys, dazed and wounded, rises, but Stannis himself approaches, sword in hand, eyes fixed. Beside her, Drogon twitches lifelessly, blood dripping from the wound on its neck. Daenerys lifts her head, defiant, and Stannis takes her head. In the sky above, Rhaegal and Viserion shriek and twist without guidance. Riderless, they flee, vanishing into the south. With Daenerys gone, her army disintegrates. The Unsullied, masterless, retreat in silence. The freedmen scatter, unsure who commands them. The Dothraki vanish like ghosts into the Dornish sands. Jon Royce rides back to the Vale with the Northmen's support, and seeing their queen fall, few Valemen see any reason to fight, especially once Littlefinger's lies are exposed. This forces Lysa to abandon their cause and hand him over. With the truth about Baelish exposed, the Valemen reaffirm its allegiance to Stannis. To the north, Robb Stark pushes southward, flanking what remains of Daenerys' host. Renly's guerrilla forces emerge from the woods, hammering them from the west and taking back the Reach castles. Together they squeeze the remnants between the hammer and anvil. In Dorne, word of Daenerys' death shatters morale. Starfall surrenders. Sunspear negotiates terms. The Martells, seeing their fire fade, recall their banners and ask only for peace. The war is ending. And with peace comes the return of dragons. Proudwing flies above King's Landing as a symbol of the crown's power. For the first time in 100 years, the Iron Throne boasts dragons, and once again, the realm bends. With that, Stannis begins working to strengthen the position of the crown and ensure a more centralized government. He names Renly his heir to ensure a smooth line of succession, and now sits atop the Iron Throne, unchallenged. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.